The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Now that the video's over, you can let me know what you thought of these issues in the comments down below, whether you like them, whether you like this video, whether it's been so long since I've done one of these that I don't remember how my outro goes. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and for the first time in over 4 months, welcome to another comically long review. But there's something else I actually want to talk about first. I turned 39 years old about a week and a half ago, and I decided to get myself a very special birthday present. It's something that I've wanted and been thinking about for a while, and the opportunity of my 39th birthday was just a great occasion to actually go ahead and make it happen. Now, I actually really wanted to try to work this into a story segment and reveal it on the channel that way, and I'm still planning to, but I don't know when I'm going to do another story segment because my time is kind of up in the air back and forth lately. And I know that there are some of you who only watch me here and don't follow me on Twitter, and I was just really eager to show this off in a video. So now I'm going to show you my 39th birthday present to myself. That is a tattoo, a genuine, permanent, ink in the skin tattoo. For those of you watching this video that may be visually impaired, the tattoo is just below my right shoulder on my right bicep, and it is the Power Rangers lightning bolt logo with various colored lightning under it, including orange right there. I actually had the tattoo artist work that into the design, modification of the original design I found to tell her what I wanted, because of course I had to include orange. I've really wanted a tattoo for the past year or so, and of course my first tattoo was going to reflect my passion for Power Rangers, and it was my birthday, so I jumped on it. Back to the topic at hand, this actually feels strangely nostalgic. This series started as hiatus content between Power Ranger seasons, and that's basically what it is now. I have 27 comics that need reviewing, and that's not even counting the stuff that I haven't even bothered to order because I'm so far behind. If I reviewed these issues one at a time, there's no way I would come anywhere close to finishing before Dino Fury eventually comes back for Season 2. So I'll be doing these videos 3 issues at a time, which is also strangely nostalgic. Once upon a time, I tripled up on comic issues in a review to get caught up on a backlog, and here we are again. An unfortunate theme of this channel seems to be falling behind and then catching up. But enough about the past, let's focus on the present. Doing 3 issues of the Trials of Ultraman will conveniently enough bring us to the end of the big guy's second miniseries. So, let's see how things wrap up by taking a look at the Trials of Ultraman, issues 3, 4, and 5.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
The main cover of issue 3 sees a pretty cool shot, Ultraman fighting a giant kaiju being filmed by an onlooker. Listen, I don't have time to go into what the classic photo and kaiju covers are. Besides, they're neat. I realize that it's been a while, so I'm going to include the recap page that previews the coming issue. Former United Science Patrol member Dan Moriboshi reappeared after a long, mysterious absence, only to be kidnapped by a group of armed dissidents. Shin, along with his friend and fellow USP cadet Kiki Fuji, went undercover to rescue Dan from the New Zealand nightclub where he was being held. In Ultraman form, Shin shielded Dan and Kiki from the criminals, who then summoned a massive kaiju to attack. The kaiju was revealed to be robotic, but before Ultraman could react, it unleashed a massive energy blast.
Oh no! Our table! It's broken!
So, Ultraman survived that massive energy blast, but knocked down and through a building. Shin thinks that it's impressive that the robot has realistic sounds, but the Ultra says they're running out of time. Kiki has cleared the basement and gotten Dan to safety, but there are still people in the nightclub. She says there are too many to get out, and the Ultra says they have mere moments to stay transformed. Ultraman leaps and zaps the robot, exposing its core. If the core explodes, a lot of people are going to die, but Shin says they can do this and asks the Ultra for a countdown on their transformation time.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ultraman takes the core, flies straight through the nightclub, and chucks the bomb into the sky, where it explodes.
Your head explode.
Kiki stops one of the terrorists outside, being led to a cop car, and asks where they got the robot. He says it was a gift, but when she presses, the cop stops her, saying they've got this under control. She berates the cop for his relaxed attitude towards the terrorist, but the captain backs her off, saying their alliance is too fragile right now. Besides, they should really take care of Dan. Shin asks how Dan is, and medically, he's perfect. Which is weird since he was in a crash over 50 years ago. He hasn't aged a day. The working theory is that he was sealed in the kaiju vault, which prevented his aging, was freed, but his memory was wiped by the experience. The Ultra is confused, knowing that Dan has interacted with his brother, and insists they investigate. Shin asks for and receives permission to talk to him. Dan introduces himself, which Shin points out isn't necessary since they've met when he was Ultraman. Shin explains how he became Ultraman, and Dan asks to speak to the Ultra. Shin says it doesn't work that way. The Ultra can hear him, and he can pass messages back and forth, but Dan declines. Shin realizes that Dan doesn't seem to trust him, and he doesn't. Knowing that he's been gone for 54 years, he has no idea what the USP stands for now. All he knows is that they seem really keen to interrogate him. The Ultra can sense Shin's discomfort, but says they need this information. But Shin declines to press the issue with Dan in this state. He tells Dan that he has a home and food and whatever else he needs at the USP because they help people. That's what they are now. Dan starts to say he appreciates it, but the captain knocks to tell Shin there's an update on Robo-Kaiju. He goes to leave, but Dan stops him. He knows he seems unreasonable, but he has reason to be careful. And so does Shin. Specialist Ide is astounded and amazed by the Robo-Kaiju, even ashamed he didn't have the idea himself. The captain asks who built it, and Ide says, they did. Sort of. Kinda. Shin tells him to quit the garbage, and he says it's fun.
Oh, but it's just so much fun.
What Ide meant is that the kaiju is clearly based on USP technology, so they're looking for someone who used to work there. But not just someone. This thing is so advanced that they're looking for a genius who used to work there. They dismiss Yamamoto since he worked in energy manipulation and not robotics. He suspects a man named Katsuichiro Kato, a tech billionaire who once did work at USP and had a tense departure. They decide to go talk to him, but...
Red alert! All hands to battle stations!
We tie into the cover, sort of, as someone starts a video recording. They seem to want to record the kaiju fight in first person, as they mention it's headed their direction. It sounds really close, but they can't see it. Probably because it's directly above them, taking out some of the building they're in. They see Ultraman come to save them, but then the floor splits under them and they fall. However, Ultraman caught them, safely dropping them to the ground before turning to face the kaiju. However, the creature retreats. As the other man asks if the person recording got all that, we see that they did, as it was posted to YouTube, to a real kaiju footage channel that has over 350,000 subscribers. I won't be jealous of a fake channel. I won't be jealous of a fake channel. The video is being watched by Shin's dad, who says this has gone too far. The captain gets on Shin for letting the kaiju escape, but he firmly says that saving lives is more important. They refocus on Kato, who left the USP after a big fight with Ichino Tani, which was weird because the two practically grew up together, so they know it had to have been a big deal. They suspected for a while that Kato built his tech empire using USP ideas, but being a secret organization at the time, there wasn't much that they could do about that. At Kato's company, they meet the man, and it is tense. Kato introduces his 4 adopted children, Takeshi, Fumio, Ippei, and Yuriko. Kato already knows they've come to ask about the Robo-Kaiju. Fumio, I did have to go back and look up the name. Thankfully, they look just different enough that it's not too hard overall to tell them all apart, says the USP can't be trusted. Shin is fed up with not being trusted, but when Fumio asks about Ultraman and they can't say anything, well, there you go. Yuriko points out that at least they're not lying about it. Kato says enough. They may not be trustworthy, but they are also the only ones that can help. He has Ippei show them something on a screen, and it's a video from a YouTube guy. Thing is, this video hasn't actually been uploaded yet. They're surveilling him. I love this exchange. That's illegal. Oh, like you guys are huge fans of civil liberties. The YouTube guy is Professor Nikaido. The title is self-granted, and he's a conspiracy theorist floating the idea that the kaiju are a hoax to justify increased taxes and government control. Shin thinks it's crazy, but Kiki points out the USP was basically a government conspiracy for a long time. Kato says that Nikaido has invited tens of thousands of his fans to a special event in Iceland where he will supposedly prove the kaiju are a hoax. They know they aren't, so it doesn't seem like a big deal, but Nikaido is a very talented former Kato engineer, and the pieces start falling into place. Nikaido is using Kato tech, inspired by USP tech, to build robotic kaiju in an effort to prove that they're all just government robots. Shin's not concerned, since the first robot wasn't exactly a heavyweight, but that was just a prototype. The next one stands to be bigger and tougher. The next one stands to be Godzilla with a popped collar. Okay, so I have to quickly explain this one. Is it Godzilla? No, obviously not. However, during production of Ultraman, the second Ultraman series after Ultra Q, Tsuburaya borrowed several monster suits from Toho. One of them was the original Godzilla monster suit. They tossed a frilled collar on the neck, and thus was born Jiros. And here's a little bit of double confirmation that shows you just how deeply the writers dig into the history of this show. The original Jiros was a mutated dinosaur created by Professor Nikaido. Now, the original Jiros was actually a kaiju and not a robot, and the original Nikaido was a professor, but it's just a nice little bit of old history becoming new. But overall, this was kind of a quiet issue. Not a lot of action, the conclusion of one fight, and another really quick fight that wraps up really fast. Otherwise, it's a lot of talking. It's good plot stuff, it's setting up for things down the road. I don't know, maybe it's just because I hadn't reviewed or even read comics for so long that I was really hoping that my return to them would be a little more dynamic of an issue. The Trials of Ultraman, issue number 3, gets a 3 out of 5. Jumping right into issue 4, a neat touch. This may be something that's happened before and I didn't really notice it, but the image used on the next time page in issue 3 is the main cover of issue 4. Ultraman, likely in Iceland, surrounded by a lot of angry people. Now, if you're like me, you may have looked at this cover with Ultraman in a snowy, frozen tundra surrounded by people in warm clothing in supposedly Iceland and remembered the famed story about Iceland and Greenland. The story goes that the Vikings found both Iceland and Greenland, but named them in reverse to their conditions to draw other settlers to the wrong one. Iceland is actually quite green and verdant most of the time, and Greenland is mostly frozen tundra. First of all, and I actually literally learned this while writing this script, that's a myth. That never happened. Iceland was named when a Viking climbed a mountain there, saw a fjord full of icebergs, and named the place Iceland. Second of all, Iceland does get snow and can actually get snow in any month of the year that's not during the summer. Another kaiju cover. This one, some kind of sea creature. Classic photo cover. That sure is a kaiju Ultraman is fighting. And we get a fourth cover this time. It's really busy. Ultraman seems to be fighting at least 3 kaiju at once. There's some kind of plane flying around, and armed USP soldiers are protecting whatever that thing is. At Kato Industries, Kato and the USP are debating what they can do. The captain points out the giant robot kaiju isn't doing anything yet. Sure, Nikato's idea of proving the kaiju are fake by making a fake kaiju is misguided, but it's not a crime. Kato worries that Nikato is so obsessed with his own fame, he'll put his followers in danger to keep it. Kiki agrees. The last robot kaiju had a power core that nearly took out a city block, and that one was a lot smaller. The event takes place in 3 days, so the USP has time to consider their response. Kiki asks the fairly obvious question. Nikato very quickly adapted Kato tech into giant robots. Kato makes small consumer electronics. What the heck did Nikato adapt? Kato basically no comments the question, and the captain pulls her off of that anyway. They leave, saying it was an intense meeting at the end of an intense day. The captain agrees and gives Shin and Kiki a day off to rest. Inside Kato, they comment that the USP folks seemed pretty okay, but it should be them out there, not the USP. But all they can do for now is get ready as fast as they can. Shin gives Dan a ride home, but when they arrive, they find a small apartment building instead, where Dan's house used to be. Dan asks to just be dropped off back at the USP, but Ichino Tani calls Shin. The director is furious because they just intercepted an email from Shin's father to the Sankei Shimbun. Cultural accuracy is a good thing, but sometimes that means the work is going to drop a reference that you are totally unfamiliar with. Google is my friend, however, and the Sankei Shimbun is a far-right conservative newspaper in Japan. So, what letter was the elder Mr. Hayata writing to this paper? Nothing terribly important. Just directly telling them that Shin is Ultraman, and, I do quote here, far too irresponsible to wield such power. They made sure that the email didn't get where it was going, caught in a constant sweep for the combination of Ultraman and Shin Hayata, but Ichino Tani tells Shin to clean this mess up. Dan asks if he wants to talk about it, but Shin says he'd really rather ignore it and focus on his work. And right now, his work involves not being able to find the giant robo-kaiju, so I guess it's not in Iceland yet, or at least not detectable, and deciding whether to protect a group of people that think he is the bad guy. Dan asks if he has a confidant, and he says yes, Kiki. This part gets surprisingly cheesy, but basically Dan says that since Shin has a true friend that will always give it to him straight, he's going to be fine no matter what. Did Dan have someone like that? He stares a moment and then says yes, he did. Back at HQ, they've decided to make the trip to Iceland. Shin has accepted that part of the consequences of being Ultraman is that some people are not going to like him, and hey, they may convince a few that he's not the enemy. Kiki finds that stupid, but sweet. The captain agrees, wanting the USP to stay on the course of helping people. And besides, he's never been to Iceland. In Iceland, it's exactly what you would expect a place called Iceland to be, cold and glacial. I'm still attributing this to wanting it to be remote and away from civilization, and not knowing that Iceland is mostly green and beautiful. The USP folks have worked into the crowd, though Shin is up above in a VTOL. With Specialist Ide, who is quickly becoming my favorite character. Professor Nikaido then pops out on the top of a cliffside, blah blah blah, you're going to see the truth, yada yada yada. But you've all been feeling some anger at the USP for perpetuating their lies, right? Well, good news. You're about to have the opportunity to vent some of that anger. Because we're joined by two USP agents today.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
The Ultra jumps right out and says no. He cannot get involved. Shin says this is all their fault as the mob advances on the two. The Ultra counters that they're getting involved in New Zealand caused this in the first place. He understands the short-term need, but using Ultraman directly against humans could have disastrous consequences. People in the mob pull guns as Shin and the Ultra keep arguing. The gist of it is this: the Ultra cannot get involved. That doesn't mean that Shin can't get involved. As the mob prepares to execute the two, Shin prepares to jump from the plane. He does so with Ide, holding down the fort. Nikaido calls off the dogs, if only because the USP are so villainous, according to him, that they deserve a far more appropriate end. The ice rumbles and cracks, and up rises Jiros. Shin realizes he's seeing this one differently, and the Ultra explains that he's using his eyes to look at it. There's an energy coming from it that even the Ultra doesn't recognize. And if that's the case, that means it's not from this universe. So, this is about a lot more than human conflict. And that means it's Ultra time! The people are convinced Ultraman has come to kill them to hide the truth, while Kiki and the captain decide to slip out the back. The fight begins and Ultraman calls Ide for information. The power source should be near the center spine, but the power source tends to explode, so there should be a conduit to it up near the shoulder blades that's a bit safer to attack. Ultraman agrees, grabbing a nearby ice peak like a sword and stabbing the robot. A nearby volcano starts erupting, but before anyone can yell at the specialist for not warning them about a nearby active volcano, he pipes in that there was no active volcano there, and actually it's not scientifically possible for a volcano to be erupting there. I'm not really sure why. Directly quoting Wikipedia here, over the past 500 years, Iceland's volcanoes have produced a third of the total global lava output. Nerd! So even if it should be possible and common, if it shouldn't be possible, you know what that means. Reality is distorting. And that means a real kaiju is nearby. It bursts out of the ground and attacks. Ide checks the records and confirms this is not a robot, this one is real. It's Zumbolar, the Walking Inferno. I'm not sure why the records include a nickname, but hey, there you go. This issue felt far breezier, even though it probably contains just as much action as issue 3. Things are really starting to come together now. The whole half-crazy conspiracy group led by Professor Nikaido thing feels very familiar when current events are considered. And a real kaiju showing up at this fight is a really nice little twist to the story. Trials of Ultraman, issue number 4, gets a 4 out of 5. Issue 3 got a 3. Issue 4 got a 4. Are we headed for a top score with the final issue? Let's find out by taking a look at issue number 5. The main cover is both striking and demonstrative of what's going on. Ultraman, a volcano erupting behind him, standing on a crumbling ice shelf. It also has a very fire and ice vibe to it. I love it. The kaiju cover is whatever the heck that thing is.
Kill it with fire!
A nice concluding feel for the miniseries on the photo cover. It's just Ultraman, arms crossed for the finishing laser. We start this issue inside of the robotic Gyros, even getting confirmation of its name. The real kaiju is attacking, but its pilot, I'm not really sure if this is Nikaido since he announced it outside of it, is drinking the Kool-Aid hard, basically saying the USP's fake kaiju can't beat their fake kaiju.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
As Zumbolar attacks Gyros and Ultraman tries to maintain some control, hey, why not just let them fight it out and then take on the tired winner, right? Ide calls with an interesting distinction, both for the comic story and really Tokusatsu as a whole. What exactly is the difference between a robot and a mecha? Having a pilot. And as we just saw, Gyros is a mecha, which means there's someone inside. Someone that is now in danger. Ultraman yanks the fire kaiju by the tail, which gets its attention, and it attacks Ultraman. Meanwhile, Kiki wonders what to do. She calls Ide, feeling that since this kaiju was captured once, they should have some information on it. Ide was already looking it up, but unfortunately he doesn't find very much. Before being captured, Zumbolar was only witnessed during the 24-hour winter nights of Iceland. He emerged into the day in populated areas when the first settlers chopped down basically all of the trees for agriculture purposes. The captain knows they can't exactly reforest the place right this second, but Kiki puts it together. It's simpler than that, far more general. Zumbolar hates technology. She tells Shin to take out the mecha first. Ultraman is confused since the real kaiju is stronger, but she explains the idea and he agrees. Ultraman attacks Gyros, and indeed, Zumbolar stops attacking and watches. The pilot has Gyros attack back, basically with Godzilla's radioactive breath, but that's no match for Ultraman, who punches straight through. Ultraman took out the head, destroying the cockpit. This was calculated, allowing the pilot to escape the mecha unharmed. Then, making sure Zumbolar is watching, Ultraman rips its friggin' spine out!
That was totally wicked!
Ultraman tells Zumbolar its fight is over, and it grunts, seemingly in agreement. I guess the pilot was Nikaido. I have no idea how he got to Gyros that fast, but he rants about Ultraman destroying his incredible work, and just to keep up the ruse that the kaiju are real. That's nice and all, but that core is about to explode. Ultraman rips it out as Zumbolar quietly returns to the water. I would think that would be kind of a problem for a fire kaiju, but hey, bigger fish to fry. Hey, maybe that's what Zumbolar is doing, frying fish. Bigger fish to fry as the core is going to explode, and this one is a lot bigger than the last one. Ultraman takes it up, up, and away, chucks it, and kaboom! So, after seeing all of this, how close this was to disaster, Nikaido has changed his mind, right? Even after all this, why won't you accept the truth? Because it's not the truth!
You an idiot?
Indeed, they turn to the crowd, and they are still muttering their conspiracy theories. It's the USP's fault. They made natural kaiju some other way, like bioengineering or gene splicing. Kiki screams at them that it attacked Ultraman. It clearly wasn't working for them. But the captain calls her off. Ultraman flies away.
That was a great scene.
As the VTOL flies home, Kiki talks to Shin. He's crestfallen. These people saw everything. The real kaiju, the battle they fight, and they still won't believe. Kiki's shaken by that too. Shin tells her how the Ultra told him the key to saving Earth from the kaiju was showing people that there's a better way. But even when they are seeing it, they don't believe it. They refuse to even look. But the captain says this was always going to be the case. Think about how you would feel if everything you knew, everything you believed, turned out to be all wrong. How do you even start to process that? He says that everyone is trying to deal with this day by day, and for many of them, that means just not believing that there are really gigantic space monsters who want to kill them. It's like this. Even when life is normal, a lot of people are living day to day, and now the USP has exposed to the world that it's far worse than they ever imagined. It's going to take time, and some people are never going to come around.
This will be a plan where you can choose your plan. And you know what the plan is. This is the plan.
But they have to keep fighting all the same. Shin heads home for a long overdue conversation with his father. He says he knows the kaiju stuff is scary, but his dad says he's not scared of them, but of Ultraman. Now that he knows some 20-year-old with no experience. How exactly does one get experience for being a gigantic superhero? Has that kind of power, but Shin cuts him off, and here we go. It's not about some kid having the power, it's him in particular. His dad tries to tell him to go, but nope, not this time, we're doing this.
Okay, so we're doing this.
We learn that Shin had a little brother, Jiro, and encouraged him to go somewhere with him. Their mom had left them before this, and their father withdrew into himself. Shin was basically raising Jiro, and they snuck out. There was some kind of accident, and presumably, Jiro died. Just like the public's hatred of Ultraman, Shin realizes that he just has to live with his father blaming him for it. But he's done letting that blame rule his life. He will redeem himself from the incident, but not for his father anymore. He even says his father can go ahead and reveal his identity as Ultraman. But he doesn't think that he will, because that will put Shin's life in danger. And even if he hates his son, he can't afford to lose the only family he has left.
Oh, don't cry, are you?
Shin and the Ultra have a chat at sunset, and the Ultra points out that their joining process opened them entirely to each other, but Shin's brother remained hidden. He says he was afraid to reveal that, worried that the incident would make the Ultra think he wasn't worthy. The Ultra says that trauma is not a disqualifying factor, and since they've both lost a brother, they can now help each other with that. Dan shows up, apologizing for interrupting, but Shin says that it's fine. A topic of the moment is that things are better when information is shared. Dan says he's been thinking about that too, and he needs to apologize. Shin says there's nothing for him to apologize for, but Dan says no, there is, and if there was any other way, he wouldn't do this. Do what? He stretches towards Shin, and his Ultra energy immediately starts draining. As Shin collapses to the ground, Dan stands above him, transformed into another Ultraman. And we'll learn more about that this summer in the third Ultraman 5-issue miniseries, The Mystery of Ultra 7. I will say that the final battle does feel a little bit sudden, although part of that is the twist showing up of Zumbalar, which is something I actually liked. This last issue in particular is also a really close-to-home glimpse at current events, with the idea of one side of a major world-changing scenario just choosing to willingly ignore the facts and the science in the face of what they'd rather believe instead. COVID, the most recent presidential election, take your pick. It strongly applies. And this issue is actually the closest I've ever come to feeling any sort of sympathy for that side of the equation. Trials of Ultraman, issue number 5, indeed gets a 5 out of 5. Overall, this miniseries does end up feeling like a middle series. It's got good action and excellent character development, but in the end, the entire series feels like setup for Ultra 7. This is Dan Moriboshi. This is who he is, this is why he matters, and this is his twist betrayal at the end. I did like it, but once again, I think this is something that's going to get better in hindsight after we see more down the road. The Trials of Ultraman miniseries gets a 3.5 out of 5. Next time on a Comically Long review, it's time to check on our favorite Rangers on the run. The Omega Rangers are still on the hunt for the Imperials, so how's that going? Find out in my review of Power Rangers, issues number 8, 9, and 10. That's going to do it for another Comically Long review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching, and I can't tell you how good it feels to actually be reviewing comic books again. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of these issues, as well as my review of them, down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel in a way that is not Patreon or Ko-fi, I can officially confirm that my Teespring store is once again functional. I was able to sort that out with the help of their technical support. All of the listings are back up there, so Google Teespring Orange Ranger videos, or I'll put a link here or on the end slate or something. I'll make sure you know where that is so you can go and check out all of my sweet Orange Ranger merch. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Doing 3 issues of the Trials of Ultraman will conveniently bring us to the end of the heater coming on because I forgot to turn it off. Dan starts to say he appreciates it. The caption. Shin is fed up with not being trusted, but what Fumio as the So, if that shouldn't be possible, even though it's really is possible, even if it Shin tells her how the Ultra told him that the key to saving Earth is